August 1928. Ford River Rouge Plant, Dearborn, Michigan. The machining floor screamed with the sound of steel cutting steel. A lathe operator watched his cutting tool turn cherry red as it bit into a Model A crankshaft blank, the high-speed steel tip glowing from friction heat. 20 minutes later, the tool was dull. He stopped the machine, loosened the tool post, rotated a fresh cutting edge into position, and resumed work. Across the vast factory floor, this scene repeated thousands of times per shift. Ford needed 50,000 tool changes per day to keep River Rouge running at capacity. Each change meant lost production time. Each dulled tool meant reduced cutting speed. Henry Ford had revolutionized manufacturing with the assembly line, but his machinists were still changing cutting tools like blacksmiths, sharpening plowshares. Before we continue with the video, if you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. My wife said I wouldn't even reach 1,000 subscribers, but I believe stories about old machines like this deserve to be heard. Help me show her that these videos matter. Please subscribe to our channel, and let's keep these old machines' legacies alive. But 4,000 miles away in Essen, Germany, a metallurgist had already solved the problem Ford didn't know he had. In 1923, Krupp engineers led by Karl Schroeder developed Widia, from the German Y-Diamant, like diamond. Tungsten carbide, sintered with cobalt, created a cutting material harder than any steel, capable of maintaining its edge at temperatures that turned high-speed steel tools to butter. A Widia tool could run for 2,000 minutes, where high-speed steel lasted 20. The difference wasn't incremental. It was revolutionary. German factories were cutting steel at speeds American machinists considered physically impossible, and they were doing it with tools that stayed sharp for days instead of minutes. This is the documented story of how General Electric reverse-engineered German carbide in secret, how a subsidiary called Carboloy broke the monopoly, and how that obscure metallurgical achievement helped arm America for the coming war. In 1928, General Electric executives in Schenectady, New York, recognized what Ford's engineers were experiencing. America had no domestic tungsten carbide production. Every Widia tool used in American factories came from Germany, subject to Krupp's prices, Krupp's delivery schedules, and Krupp's patent monopoly. GE assigned the problem to their metallurgy research division. The mission was simple and impossible: replicate German carbide technology without violating German patents. Dr. Samuel Hoyt's team began by purchasing Widia tools through distributors, then grinding them to powder for analysis. The composition was straightforward: tungsten carbide particles, roughly 90% by weight, bound together with metallic cobalt. But knowing what something is made of doesn't reveal how to make it. The sintering process, the temperature, curves, the atmosphere composition, the particle size distribution. These details separated knowledge from capability. Through months of experiments, GE metallurgists heated tungsten and carbon together at different temperatures, mixed the resulting carbide powder with varying cobalt percentages, and pressed the mixtures into molds before sintering. Most attempts produced brittle failures or weak composites. The breakthrough came in understanding that sintering required precise temperature control between 1,400 and 1,500 degrees Celsius in a hydrogen atmosphere. Too hot, and the cobalt boiled away. Too cool, and the particles never fused properly. Grain size mattered critically. Cobalt percentage determined whether the final product was hard but brittle or tough but soft. By late 1929, GE had synthesized tungsten carbide that matched Widia's performance in laboratory tests. The patent problem remained. Krupp's intellectual property blocked commercial production. GE's solution was strategic: create a separate subsidiary, develop sufficiently different manufacturing processes to avoid infringement, and enter the market as a competitor rather than a licensee. In 1929, The Carboloy company was incorporated as a GE subsidiary, with its first production facility in Detroit, positioned near the automotive industry that would become its primary customer. Carboloy entered the market just as the Great Depression began. In October 1929, the stock market crashed. Industrial production collapsed. Machine tool orders evaporated. The new company faced extinction before establishing itself, but General Electric's financial backing kept Carboloy alive through the Depression's darkest years. The company used the downturn to perfect its technology and develop different carbide grades for different materials. C1 grade worked best for cast iron. C2 grade cut steel. Each composition balanced hardness against toughness for specific applications. By 1934, Carboloy began demonstrating its tools to skeptical manufacturers. The company sent engineers to factory floors with a simple proof. They mounted a Carboloy insert in a lathe, brought it up to cutting speed against hardened steel, and let it run. The carbide tool glowed red-hot from friction, but kept cutting. A high-speed steel tool tested the same way dulled within minutes. The demonstration was visceral and undeniable. Carbide cut steel like butter literally and continuously, under conditions that destroyed conventional tools. Ford adopted Carboloy tools in 1935. General Motors followed. Chrysler switched soon after. The automotive industry's conversion created momentum. By 1937, Carboloy opened a second facility in Niagara Falls, New York, locating near cheap hydroelectric power needed for the high-temperature sintering furnaces. Production climbed from thousands of tool inserts monthly to tens of thousands. Meanwhile, storm clouds gathered over Europe. In 1938, Germany annexed Austria. In 1939, Germany invaded Poland. The United States Army Ordnance Department began modernizing arsenals and shipyards for potential war production. Officers recognized that manufacturing capability would determine military capability. Tungsten carbide tools, obscure and industrial, suddenly mattered strategically. By September 1939, when World War II began in Europe, American industry possessed something the Wehrmacht didn't know it was facing. Not tanks or planes, but cutting tools that would manufacture them faster than Germany could destroy them. In June 1940, France fell to Germany in 6 weeks. America watched Europe collapse and began preparing. President Roosevelt called for America to become the arsenal of democracy. Machine tools became the critical bottleneck. You couldn't build aircraft without machining aluminum engine blocks. You couldn't build tanks without cutting armor plate and machining gun tubes. You couldn't build ships without boring propeller shafts and milling turbine components. And you couldn't do any of it fast enough with tools that dulled every 20 minutes. Carboloy's Detroit plant tripled in size in 1941. A new facility opened in Warren, Ohio in 1942. Another in Cleveland in 1943. Production exploded from peacetime levels to volumes impossible to imagine 5 years earlier. The statistics tell the story. Between 1940 and 1945, American factories produced 300,000 aircraft. Boeing, Lockheed, and Douglas assembly lines ran constantly, each plane requiring thousands of machining operations on aluminum alloys that wore conventional tools rapidly. Carbide tools cut aluminum 5 to 10 times faster than high-speed steel while lasting 100 times longer. Tank production demanded even more. A single Sherman tank contained 27 tons of machined steel components. America produced 50,000 Shermans during the war. Each required carbide tools to cut armor plate, machine transmission gears, and rifle gun barrels. Naval shipyards used carbide to machine propeller shafts 6 feet in diameter. The Liberty Ship program built 2,700 cargo vessels, each needing massive machining operations impossible without carbide tooling. Germany faced the opposite problem. Cut off from Chinese tungsten supplies by the Allied blockade, German factories rationed carbide tools to critical military applications. Quality deteriorated as the war continued. By 1944, American aircraft production reached 96,000 planes, while Germany produced 40,000. The productivity gap wasn't just about resources or manpower. Carbide tooling gave American factories a 30 to 40% efficiency advantage in every machining operation. When the war ended in August 1945, military orders stopped immediately. Carboloy faced the peacetime transition every war contractor dreaded, but the post-war boom absorbed the surplus capacity faster than anyone predicted. American families wanted cars after years of rationing. They wanted refrigerators, washing machines, and television sets. Every consumer product required metal stamping and machining. Carbide tools that had manufactured bombers now manufactured Chevrolets and Frigidaires. The Marshall Plan shipped American machine tools to rebuild Europe, and those tools came equipped with Carboloy inserts. The company established European operations, competing directly with Krupp-Whittea in Germany's home market. The technology monopoly Germany held in 1928 no longer existed. When the Korean War began in 1950, military production surged again. Jet engines demanded carbide tools capable of machining high-temperature alloys. Carboloy's research investments paid dividends as new grades handled materials that didn't exist in 1940. Competition intensified through the 1950s. Kennametal, founded in 1938, expanded aggressively. European and Japanese manufacturers entered the market. Carboloy's wartime dominance fragmented as the industry matured. General Electric eventually sold the subsidiary through a series of mergers. Carboloy became part of Valeron in 1982. Then Valenite acquired it in 1993. Finally, Swedish manufacturer Sandvik purchased Valenite in 2003, absorbing the Carboloy brand into Sandvik Coromont. By 1960, carbide cutting tools were so standard that their revolutionary nature was forgotten. Every machine shop in America used carbide as routinely as they used electricity. The tools that seemed miraculous in 1928, cutting steel like butter while glowing red hot, were now ordinary equipment. Production workers no longer marveled at tools that lasted days instead of minutes. The achievement had become invisible through success. The monopoly that seemed unbreakable was broken. The technology gap that threatened American industry was closed, and the quiet metallurgical revolution continued in 10,000 factories, one glowing tool tip at a time. Today, the global carbide cutting tool market generates billions in annual revenue. Sandvik, Kennametal, Iskar, Kyocera, and Mitsubishi dominate production. Chinese manufacturers now control commodity grades. The Carboloy name survives as a brand within Sandvik Coromont's portfolio, a ghost of the company that broke Germany's monopoly. Technology has advanced beyond what General Electric's metallurgists imagined in 1928. Polycrystalline diamond and cubic boron nitride offer even greater hardness. Ceramic metal composites and nanograin carbides push performance further. But the fundamental physics haven't changed. Carbide remains harder than high-speed steel, 1,500 to 2,000 Vickers hardness versus 600 to 900. It maintains cutting edges at 900 degrees Celsius, where steel softens at 600. Tool life stays 100 to 200 times longer. The strategic lesson resonates today. China controls 80% of global tungsten supply, echoing Germany's 1928 monopoly. The United States maintains strategic tungsten stockpiles and carbide recycling programs, acknowledging supply chain vulnerability. Technology monopolies prove temporary. Innovation cannot be fenced forever. Manufacturing capability still determines military capability, a truth as valid now as in 1940. Return to August 1928. Ford River Rouge, tools dulling every 20 minutes. Henry Ford, demanding faster production, never knew the solution already existed in Germany and would soon exist in America. The problem that seemed insurmountable was already solved. There are no monuments to carbide tool developers. No headlines celebrated cutting tool breakthroughs. Dr. Samuel Hoyt's research team left few names to history. Production workers who ran 3 shifts remain anonymous. Yet their impact measures in every manufactured object surrounding us. America didn't have tungsten carbide in 1928. Within 6 years, Carboloy forged tools that cut steel like butter. Within 16 years, those tools helped forge victory. The cutting edge that seemed impossible became routine. And the Industrial Revolution continued, one glowing red tooltip at a time.